You're listening to an Ono Media podcast.
Good morning, and thanks for joining me for Rise in Crime, your morning caffeine hit all about crime. I'm Mama Jules, and we've got 3 crime stories to cover today. We have a bizarre missing persons case out of California that includes wigs and rental cars and swapped license plates. Then there's a pseudo-celebrity murder trial out of Arizona that has a completion, finally, and another update to a toddler death in Arizona. Also, I've got a bonus video at the end about the arrest of Jesse Mack Butler. So let's get to it. 9-year-old Melody Buzzard has had a lifetime of tragedy and loneliness before she even reached double digits in age. Melody was born on February 10th of 2016 to Ashley Buzzard and Pinoy Meza. The dark-eyed and full head of hair baby lost her father Pinoy to a tragic motorcycle accident when Melody was just 6 months old. The next 4 years of Melody's life seemed simpler until 2021 rolled around and Ashley was hospitalized with an illness, leaving Melody with no one to care for her. Pinoy's brother stepped in and began caring for the 5-year-old. The illness took weeks to resolve, and during that time, Pinoy's mother, Lily, contacted authorities to initiate the process of adoption for Melody. That's her granddaughter. Now, Lily was ready to care for that granddaughter, and on the paperwork, Lily cited concerns over Ashley's mental health and also her ability to just care for the beautiful young girl with long black curly hair. But before those legal proceedings could fully bloom, Ashley was discharged from the hospital. Then she drove straight to Melody's school, informed the school they were moving, and the mother and daughter left Santa Maria, California. Lily said the communication was basically severed at that point. Ashley changed Melody's last name to match hers, and the family has had very little communication with Ashley or Melody ever since. Now, Lily told the LA Times that occasionally when Ashley needed money, she would call, but other than that, the two lived in isolation. For the next few years, Melody became lost in the system. Lily says Melody was being homeschooled, but the California Department of Education says Ashley never filed a private school affidavit with the state, which is actually a requirement for homeschooling. And federal court records show that Ashley filed bankruptcy in 2020, this after the motorcycle accident and the beginning of her caring for Melody solo. Since then, she has had multiple small claims lawsuits filed against her for alleged unpaid debts. In August of this year, Ashley, who is by this time 35 years old, stepped through the doors of the Mission Valley Independent School in Lompoc, California. With Melody in tow, Ashley was asking that her daughter be enrolled in the district's independent study program. Kind of think of a traditional school and a homeschool having a baby, and that's the independent study program. Melody would be provided assignments and classwork by the school, but she would do those assignments at home. Staff at Mission Valley said Melody was bubbly and bright. She answered questions asked by the staff, and they proceeded to enroll Melody into the hybrid program. This might be the most normal thing that Melody has experienced for quite a while. It didn't last long. On Tuesday, October 7th, Ashley stepped through the doors of a car rental agency in Santa Barbara, California, wearing a long curly wig. Steps behind her, Melody in a long black straight wig with her gray hoodie pulled up over the synthetic hair. Melody's appearance is a contrast to the smiling, sweet, almost cherubic-like pictures of her that were taken back in 2021. Melody's becoming a young woman, even at the young age of 9. She's taller, she's thinner, and in the hoodie and leggings and cross-body bag, she looks much older than her age. Ashley secures a 2024 white Chevy Malibu car for what she is telling to the clerk is a quick 3-day trip to Nebraska and back. Ashley and Melody drive for hours that first day, leaving California and heading northeast. The next day, according to Santa Barbara detectives, Ashley strips the Malibu of its California license plate, which read 9MNG101. She then replaces it with a New York plate reading HCG 9677. Detectives aren't saying if the plate was stolen, if it was nabbed from a junkyard, or possibly lifted from an abandoned car in their nearby neighborhood, whatever it was. This whole trip screams evasion. We've got wigs, swapped out plates, no real reason to be making the journey. By evening on the 8th, the Malibu's GPS is pinging towers in Denver and Grand Junction, Colorado. Then, the next day, October 9th, is the last confirmed glimpse of Melody alive. Grainy casino surveillance in Fruita, Colorado, just spitting distance from the Utah line, shows the white Chevy Malibu idling at a stoplight. There's Ashley at the wheel, stone-faced in her massive sunglasses, and in the passenger seat, a small figure, again in a hoodie, but now there's a blonde wig, all ski-wampus, just staring out at the desert like seemingly unconcerned. A gas station clerk in Junction, Utah, so that's about 200 miles west of Colorado, later tells the FBI he saw Ashley pull up around noon. He allegedly said the following: "She had this woman with her," meaning Melody, "in a purple wig and all, looked like an adult, maybe a sister. They grabbed sodas and then they split. No kid vibe." You guys, what's going on? We've got brown wigs, black wigs, purple wigs, blonde wigs, weird routes through the center of the United States. And later that day, the Malibu travels through Green River, Utah and Panguitch, Utah before dipping down into Arizona's Red Rocks, then crossing over into Primm, Nevada. Finally that evening, Ashley pulls into Rancho Cucamonga, California. And it's just her. After Fruita, Colorado, no traffic cams capture a second person, a passenger in the white Chevy Malibu, and by October 10th, day 4 of this supposedly 3-day trip, Ashley rolls into Lompoc car rental lot all alone. The California plate is back on the car. Ashley drops the keys, drives home in her old sedan, and then nothing happens. There's no frantic calls to grandma that Melody is missing, no social media posts chronicling the trip. Nothing happens until an alert school counselor who was tracking Melody, the newly enrolled student in the hybrid program. When Melody hadn't picked up assignments, hadn't logged into the portal, the school employee dialed up Ashley. The call went to voicemail. So the school employee reached out to the emergency contact number listed on the enrollment paperwork. Again, no answer. This school employee doesn't wait, and they call the Santa Barbara County Sheriff Dispatch by lunchtime saying that this 9-year-old has been absent too long, and repeated over and over again the haunting words, "Something's wrong." In the late afternoon, deputies were finally able to knock on Ashley Buzzard's door. Ashley does answer, and there she answers some questions, and she says coolly, "Melody's with family out of state. She's fine, just fine." When the officers asked her to provide contact numbers for the officers to just kind of check in on Melody, Ashley refuses to supply the numbers. At this point, the cops can't do anything. They have to go through proper channels. And it takes 5 days. But on October 15th, they returned, a simple warrant in hand. And they find nothing again, except Melody's room with a unicorn poster and chapter books stacked on a shelf and captured ladybugs in a mason jar. The next day, on October 16th, the FBI jumps into the investigation, and that totally makes sense, right? We've crossed state lines, we have a missing child, and then 2 weeks later, warrants are served on basically anything Ashley has touched. The house in Lompoc, a storage unit stuffed to the rafters with camping gear and boxes of photos and decorations. They go ahead and they find the Chevy Malibu and they tow it to an impound lot. Forensics teams begin digging in. They're looking for fibers, for blood, for fluids, but most of their effort is fruitless. And then there's still our mother, Ashley, who has absolutely nothing to say about her missing daughter. Finally, on Friday, just this Friday, 3 days ago, Ashley was arrested. But not for what you think. Instead, it's a federal charge that has Ashley hauled away in cuffs from her cul-de-sac home. And the feds and the Santa Barbara police aren't really saying much except that Ashley has been charged with felony false imprisonment. And it has nothing to do with Melody. But they are saying because Melody is missing, they aren't going to give any more details about the charge. Now, rumors are swirling that the charge has something to do with Ashley's behavior before she was a mother, and that the sheriff's office discovered the crime, which allows them to keep her in jail because she most likely will not be able to come up with the $100,000 in bail money. Special Agent Carla Gomez with the FBI told reporters that they have only one focus at this point, and that focus is Melody. Well, Lily, remember that's Melody's grandmother, well, she told the LA Times that she is having a hard time sleeping because their baby is missing. Lily says she refuses to listen to online rumors that Melody has been killed. Lily also said there is no explanation to the behavior of Ashley. She says she doesn't understand why Ashley changed the plates and why they were wearing the wigs. And finally, Raquel Zick, so she's with the sheriff's office. She says they are particularly interested in speaking with anyone who was in the area of the Utah-Colorado border on October 9th. Remember, that's the last currently known sighting of Melody. Melody is described as 4 feet 6 inches tall, with dark brown curly hair and dark brown eyes. The Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office is asking for anyone with information to call detectives at 805-681-4150, or you can remain anonymous by calling the following number, 805-681-4171. If you're from the area, let me know what you think about this case in the comments. Now to the sun-baked sprawl of Phoenix, Arizona, where the desert air shimmers and the mesas loom on the horizon, and also where Anthony Milan Ross once embodied the ultimate American glow-up. Born in 1973 into a close-knit family in the heartland, where Sunday dinners were kind of those sacred rituals happened every week, filled with laughter and shared plates of food, creating these unbreakable bonds. That was Milan's life. He grew up idolizing the kitchen as a place of creation and connection. And food wasn't just sustenance for young Milan. It was love and legacy. It was part of his heritage, if you will. By his early 20s, his passion for food had blossomed into a career as a chef. But if we were to divide his life into courses like you do a meal, that first course, that appetizer, was nothing but bitter endings. In 2003, at just 30 years old, Milan abruptly vanished from his Missouri home, abandoning his first wife, Nicole, and their shared daughters. Without a backward glance or a forwarding address, Milan was gone, and Nicole was left to raise the girls alone in St. Louis, where she filed for divorce in 2008 after years of fruitless searches for her husband. In her court papers, Nicole painted a portrait of a man who had, quote, evaporated into thin air, leaving behind a trail of unpaid bills and also shattered trust in the girls he had fathered. Ebony, his oldest daughter, later recalled how their father's absence forced her mother to scrape by on minimum wage jobs while the girls bonded together, basically raising themselves. Meanwhile, Milan had fled west to Phoenix, virtually reinventing himself as a vegan evangelist. Yeah, you heard that right. Milan created a plant-based empire. See, at over 400 pounds, Milan had hit rock bottom. He had fled his previous life, and his current physical composition, well, he wanted to flee that as well. He dug deep and he found the willpower, dropping 300 pounds through a strict raw vegan regimen of kale smoothies and nuts and cheeses, and also, like we said, motivational mantras. It was kind of a religion for him. And by 2010, Milan was a local celebrity in Phoenix. His cookbook, Milan's Raw Inspirations, flew off shelves at health food co-ops. It was filled with recipes like sun-dried tomato wraps and cashew cheesecakes that promised not just nourishment for the body, but healing for the soul. Milan hit the TV circuit, charming audiences on Good Morning Arizona with his really vibrant, booming laugh, and also his kind of religious testimonials. While flexing his bicep, he would tell the anchor, "Food is my therapy. It's how I turned pain into power." He hosted workshops, he signed books at farmers markets, and built a facade of flawless domesticity on Instagram. He would pose with blenders, and there would be kids in the background that weren't actually his. Behind the filters, though, the cracks were forming. Financially, Milan was a house of cards ready to tumble. His, quote, celebrity gigs barely covered the Mercedes lease and the designer athleisure that screamed artificial success on his social media channels. So while he was building this social media and celebrity chef empire, he also was trying to look for the new Mrs. Ross. In 2009, he found her. Iris Sutherland, who was a driven woman from a stable Arizona family, well, she became the steady in Milan's life. She had a job in medical billing, and that was the silent stabilization of his vegan dream. They were kind of a yin and yang. Iris was a grounded pragmatist with, unlimited ambition. She believed they could become something. And then Milan, well, he was the flamboyant man with the highest of highs and the hidden lowest of lows. The two together had children, Nigel and Nora, and the social media picture was complete. To the outside world, the Rosses were Instagram perfect. Milan posting smoothie tutorials with Nigel perched on his hip, captioning them, "Family first, flavor forever." But insiders whispered about the strain between the two. Milan's first daughters, now teens, had begun piecing together his disappearance via online sleuthing, and they reached out to him sporadically. They were only met with vague promises and then radio silence that followed that. Well, Iris, she was ever the fixer in all of Milan's relationships. She urged reconciliation with his daughters, but Milan dodged the responsibility. And then the money woes mounted. This was all due to Milan's catering side hustle kind of sputtering, not really growing and gaining traction. And then it was all worsened by Phoenix's brutal economy fall. And by the spring of 2017, Iris, well, she had had enough. In June of that year, again, 2017, Iris filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, and she sought full custody of the kids. The demise of the relationship kind of burned like forgotten veggies in a broiling oven, and Milan, who by now was in his mid-40s, reportedly spiraled into paranoia and rage. Court documents later revealed how Milan spent sleepless nights frantically conducting Google searches on the best silencers for guns and other searches about sulfuric acid, battery acid, and skin-melting acid. Horrifically, he also searched about men slaughtering their families around the holidays. You guys, it's all so dark. The thoughts were pretty much all-consuming, and friends later recalled how Milan had confided in them with cryptic messages like, "Expect something big on Christmas." Well, all of this became more weird because in his public life, Milan had begun dating again. In a bizarre bit of normalcy, Milan proposed to a new girlfriend just 3 days before Christmas of 2017. It wasn't just the engagement, though. He also adopted a rescue dog, and he wrote out a personal check to his faltering business. All of these things seemed so healthy looking. These were just days before he murdered his ex-wife and 2 children. In fact, he was trying so aggressively to keep up the persona, the social media worthy look, that in November of 2017, he went on Arizona's 12 News touting his weight loss as a, quote, family miracle. Remember, he's divorced. And he said on that show that losing 300 pounds changed everything: his health, his marriage, his kids' futures. Yeah, his kids' futures. What foreshadowing, because on Christmas morning in Phoenix's Biltmore neighborhood at 8:47 a.m., Milan had just uploaded his final post to his Instagram account. The heart-tugging video was of him and 11-year-old Nigel. They were belting out the tune, "Santa Claus is Coming to Town." At the end of the video, Nigel, with his gap-toothed grin, wished everyone a Merry Christmas. Then 4 hours later, Iris, who was living separately, remember, she doesn't live with them, they're divorced, even though he's presented a different picture on Arizona TV, and he's already become engaged to another woman. Well, Iris approaches the front patio of Milan's apartment. As she neared the door, Milan stepped out into Iris's pathway and leveled a 9mm handgun in Iris's direction. First one shot, then a second shot. They rang out on that Christmas day, and Iris slumped into a pool of crimson lifelessness on the ground in front of Milan's home. Neighbors heard the shots. They even spoke to Milan, asking if Iris was okay. This as Milan retreated back into the house. With Iris gone, Milan then delivered the same fate to his 11-month-old daughter, Honora, and his preteen son, Nigel. Right there in the apartment, in the pack and play, he shot his baby girl. Milan then went back outside and rifled through Iris's pockets, searching for her phone and for her keys, I don't know what for. And in the meantime, neighbors had called 911, and sirens were wailing in the distance. Milan went back inside, and a standoff between him and Phoenix PD began. 6 grueling hours of SWAT teams circling the apartment building, negotiators trying their best to get Milan to surrender. Every now and again, Milan would fire a shot at really no one in particular. When Milan was reached by phone, he calmly told negotiators that he, quote, killed them. As officers attempted to enter the home, they discovered unforgettable horror. Honora's lifeless baby fist was still clutching a stuffed reindeer, and Nigel, who was found near the couch, was curled in the fetal position, presumably in hopes to protect himself. SWAT deployed tear gas canisters and flashbangs rattled the windows of the apartment, and at 10 p.m., Milan surrendered to authorities. He was taken into custody and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. During the standoff, Milan sent text messages to Iris's sister Mary. The first message read, "I just killed Iris and the kids." The second message simply stated, "with a gun." During the arrest, Milan did fire at officers, and one officer was injured as a bullet shredded his shoulder. The aftermath was a discovery of shattered lives. Iris was pronounced dead at the scene. She had been shot 4 times, twice in the back. Nigel, the bright-eyed boy who dreamed of, following in his dad's culinary footsteps, well, he took 2 bullets to the chest. And Honora, that little baby girl, died by a single bullet to the head. Okay, this is Rise in Crime. I deliver you current headlines. This nightmare is from 2017. Why are we talking about it today? Well, we're talking about it because the trial just ended last week. Milan pleaded not guilty to the charges in January of 2018, and he didn't see a courtroom with a jury of his peers until October of 2025. 7.5 years for justice to occur in this case. Delays piled up in this one. Of course, COVID, it caused a couple of those years to just kind of exist in a vacuum. But what about all of that other time? Well, apparently motion after motion was filed about the death penalty option in this case, with the defense attorney arguing that Milan, who is black, was being unfairly treated with the charges because he was married to a white woman. When we finally got to the courtroom, the prosecutors took the opportunity to paint Milan as a fame-hungry fraud whose vegan empire was just a $200,000 a year mirage propped up by Iris's $60,000 salary. Evidence was submitted of checks that she had cut for his, quote, business expenses, things like organic produce and rented Teslas for photo ops. The prosecution referenced the digital trail of evidence over and over again, saying his searches for acid and guns showed premeditation. The defense countered with a portrait of a mental breakdown. Milan's attorney described Milan's untreated bipolar swings. She also explained the Missouri abandonment as untreated trauma that had bubbled up inside of him. She also said his insomnia-fueled rants were just simply hours of missed sleep, shattering his everyday thoughts. His attorney insisted to jurors that the Christmas Day slaughter was just Milan snapping. She said he was getting his life back together. He had adopted the new dog, he had a new girlfriend, and when he saw Iris, it just poof, ignited something inside of Milan that he couldn't control. All right, remember that claim of unhealed trauma from his previous family? Well, Milan's daughter, Ebony, she's now 30 years old, and she testified in court at trial about how her dad's inspirational food posts did nothing but mock the years of childhood hunger pains that her and her sisters felt due to no money, no food on the table as their mother worked multiple jobs. She said the following in her testimony: "He used meals to heal strangers, but starved us of a father." She then said, "We forgave to survive, but his darkness, it always circled back into our lives." Well, it took 7 years to bring this trial to a courtroom. And of course, it took 3 weeks for witnesses to testify and the evidence to be presented. Honestly, that was probably faster than they had guessed it would be. And on November 3rd, the jurors filed back into the courtroom and delivered a guilty verdict for the murders of his ex-wife, his son, and his daughter. And then also a slew of guilties for the numerous assault charges that occurred during the standoff on that Christmas Day. Milan is scheduled to be sentenced on January 9th, 2026. He faces life in prison or the death penalty for the murder convictions. If he does get the death penalty, in Arizona, that would occur via lethal injection or the gas chamber. Now, I didn't know of this man, and maybe because I don't know him because I eat too many cinnamon rolls and I bake too many cookies. He's just not my vibe. But I was taken back while researching for this update about how fake social media is. One time I was in Southern California with Peyton and Garrett, and we were there playing pickleball, and an influencer showed up to do a photo op. She pretended to play pickleball in her cute little skirt, and after her and her team got the shots they needed, the entourage packed up and left. There were no actual games played, no actual sweat dripping from her forehead. It was all just pretend. And you guys, I'm kind of actually okay with the pretend. Go ahead and cultivate your life. Just do you. But what I hope is we all learn to not trust social media. Do not put your loyalty into someone's image. Because guess what? We're all just regular people living. And those are just super polished screenshots. It's fun to look at, but it's not real. Let me know what you think about this case in the comments. Now, a quick update on this Monday. Just a couple of episodes ago, I revisited the case of Christopher Schultes. Now, I'm going to stop right there because some people pronounce it Schultz and I pronounce it Schultes. And I've seen it in news articles and or TV articles the same way. So I say Schultes. I'm really sorry if it's wrong. Okay, Christopher Schultes. That's the man who took a plea deal for leaving his 2-year-old daughter, Parker, in the family car asleep on a hot 109-degree day in Arizona. Well, Christopher was supposed to turn himself into police custody on November 5th. Here's the update. Early that morning, presumably Christopher's wife, Dr. Erica Schultes, found her husband hanging by a belt from a closet clothes rod at 5:22 a.m. KOLD is reporting that they have seen body cam footage from that morning when first responders arrived at the home. And allegedly, on that body cam footage, Erica is heard murmuring the following. "He said last night he couldn't do the time. I thought he was just talking." When Christopher took his own life, his other 2 children, now ages 6 and 10, were inside their beds sleeping. Now, this $1 million home was not the home where Parker died outside in the car. The family had vacated that home and for a brief time lived in a rented home before Erica bought the home where the family was currently living and where Christopher ended his life. Erica has stood by her husband all this time, saying he made a fatal mistake back in July of 2024 when he left Parker in the car while he played video games for 3.5 hours. Now, I'm not trying to speak ill of someone who chose to leave this earth early, but I know I will get a comment about this. I have never chosen to report that during those 3.5 hours, Christopher also viewed pornography online. It has been reported in multiple outlets, but I wasn't going to make that assertion until it was proven in court. So just note that theory is out there. Also, remember the state of mind Christopher was in when he completed ending his life. It was pretty horrible. He had turned away a plea deal back in March that would have secured him less time behind bars. Instead, he held out hope and spent massive amounts of money on a legal team before finally accepting another plea deal that would have had him spending at a minimum of 20 years behind bars. So he gave up a better one and got a worse one and spent a whole bunch of money to do it. Now, it has also been rumored that Christopher had shoplifted beer during his errands on that fateful day in July of 2024. Again, that had not been proven in court, so I had not reported that here either. And I just can't believe it, but it had gotten worse for Christopher in the recent days before his death. See, he has a daughter from a previous relationship, and she is being raised by a guardian. This because her mother died last year. So that 17-year-old lives with a guardian and also has a child of her own, according to Radar Online. The teen was estranged from her father, and she has accused her father of abuse over the years. Well, 1 week before Christopher took his own life, the teen, with the help of her guardian, had filed a lawsuit against her father and his wife, Erica. The teen and the guardian were seeking repair for emotional damages. This all from the previous abuse and also those damages that occurred when her stepsister died in that hot car. It is being reported that Christopher was previously investigated 9 times for allegations of neglect, as well as physical and emotional abuse. These events allegedly occurred between June of 2014 and December of 2020. The teen has diabetes, and the lawsuit claims when she was just a young child, Christopher would leave her to manage her disease without any adult help. The teen was quoted as saying after her father's death that he took the easy way out and that she wasn't surprised to hear of his ending of his life. During a news conference, Pima County Attorney Laura Conover said the following: "To Parker's big sisters, you have already survived more than any child should. You are loved, you are enough, and you will thrive." Now, this ends here. Christopher was 38 years old and just hours away from turning himself in to serve his lengthy prison sentence. If you have thoughts on this case, let me know in the comments. Now to comments from last episode, and one just in particular. Kelly on Spotify asked me to please cover the case of Jesse Mack Butler. Well, I did a deep dive on this case back on October 27th, so head on back there and listen to that one. However, since that episode, video of the arrest of Jesse has surfaced online. A reminder for everyone, this is the privileged Oklahoma 17-year-old that was convicted of raping and strangling 2 young women. But he was sentenced under a new youthful offender law, and he will not spend a day in prison for his crimes. Now, I'll play that arrest video for you right here. Just give it a listen.
We're ready to honestly tell our story, too.
Yeah.
Jess, it's Mom. Open the door. It's me.
And if you'll just have him step out.
Okay. Give me your wallet and phone and stuff. So, okay. Your what?
They're in the car.
Well, okay, it's fine. It's not locked or anything, is it? Okay. So, can you tell him what you just told me, or?
Yeah. So we're here. We're obviously going to place you under arrest. There's a warrant for your arrest. We're going to take you to the jail. I told your mom that she can contact a bondsman, and you shouldn't be very long. But there just is a process for paperwork and stuff. But right now you do have to come with us, and I do have to put you in handcuffs. So turn around for me.
You have to put him in handcuffs?
I'm at breath and common transport summary. You give me custody.
You know I'm gonna win this. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll get you out. For me? Alright, stay silent. Rick knows about this. Candy's on this. Dad's on his way. We're coming to get you, okay? Just stay strong, okay? Say your prayers.
Okay. So he's going to go right to the city of Stillwater jail. And if you'll just contact her, then she does this all the time. She knows what to do.
Yeah.
Make sure
Okay.
she knows Stillwater Police Department, not county.
Stillwater Police Department on Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let them know that we're the ones that picked them up.
And when you say we are
Stillwater PD.
Stillwater PD.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way they don't think you went like straight over and over at the county.
So horrible. Awful experience for a child.
Ain't that chart? Want to patch it down and spread your feet for me?
And then their socks.
Okay, you can make your own judgment here, but the community and now pretty much the nation is outraged over the kid glove treatment of this convicted criminal. Jesse's mother said the arrest was something horrible that a child should never go through. I want to remind everybody of some things. He was 17. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I made these notes. He might have been 18 when he was arrested. I'll have to go back and look because I'm in the middle of recording. Whatever. He was either 17 or 18 when he was arrested. He was 17 when he committed the crimes. Now, I also want to point out, and you just listened or watched the video, their arresting officers are very kind to him. They don't shove him around. They are very clear about where they're going, what they're doing, what his charges are. For me, it's a very calm and instructive arrest. So when the mom says no child should go through something this horrible, I think the two girls that suffered untold emotional trauma and now healing physical trauma might say that their experience was just a wee bit worse. Like I said, you can make your own conclusions here. He did plead guilty to SA, sodomy, strangulation, and a slew of other offenses, including violating a protection order that was placed by one of the young women that he harmed. And remember, with good behavior, while on probation, in 9 months, all of it will be erased from Jesse's record. All right, that's your Monday episode of Rise in Crime. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this podcast with me. Please, let's share it with everyone. Send it to a friend. Invite someone to listen to Rise in Crime. That's a great way to help the podcast grow. Please keep sending me your case suggestions. We love those here. And we also love 5-star reviews or positive comments, likes, follows, subscribes, any of that. On all of our social media and our YouTube channels here at Oh No Media, remember the 3 podcasts are Murder with My Husband, Into the Dark, and Rise in Crime. You can join me again on Thursday for more morning crime news. I'm Mama Jules, and keep safe out there.